Hello, and welcome to the Impact Series on the Green Builder Media Network. I'm your host, Mike Collignon. On this podcast, I'll have one-on-one conversations with leaders and innovators from a wide variety of disciplines. We'll talk about how they got into their field, the lessons they've learned, and advice they have for future generations of leaders. Today, I'm here with Nathan Good. He established the office of Nathan Good Architects PC in 2004, but his career began long before that. He is an NCARB registered architect and has been a certified interior designer since 1983. Along the way, he became the fifth person to be designated a lead AP by the U.S. Green Building Council in the year 2000. In 2015, Nathan earned a significant career achievement. He was honored as a member of the College of Fellows of the American Institute of Architects. And Green Builder magazine named Nathan their sustainability superhero in 2019. Nathan, welcome to the Impact Series.
Thank you, Mike.
You've had basically 4 decades in the architecture field. You've seen a lot of trends come and go. Before we get into that, take us back to your first year in the industry. What were your early career goals?
Oh boy, that's a deep one. First, I have to say, I don't know if you remember this or not, Mike, but at the Sustainability Summit in 2019, you were introduced by Ron Jones as the voice of God. and now I understand why. You've got a great voice, and I am talking to God. So what a privilege.
Well, thank you, Nathan. I appreciate that.
Okay, early aspirations, other than body surfing and volleyball and living the good life. My first job in architecture was with William Blue Rock Associates in Newport Beach. They were right on the bay in Newport Beach, a block from beach for body surfing and volleyball. But they designed schools and theaters and restaurants, and those were 3 project types that I was very interested in. So I'm very fortunate to get a job of my dreams right out of school.
Well, talk a little bit about that. I mean, what inspired you to get into the field of architecture?
Well, I was one of those strange creatures who wanted to be an architect from a very early age. I mean, it was my parents were designing a home for ourselves when I was about in 3rd grade, and they were bringing home all of these magazines about floor plans and designs, and a couple of things happened. One was that they couldn't agree on a floor plan, and so I started drawing floor plans, trying to mediate or work out the conflict resolution between my parents and drawing floor plans for them. And then the other thing was one of the magazines they brought home had a home designed by John Lautner. I think it was called the Chemosphere Home, but it was kind of a spaceship looking home on a pedestal in Los Angeles. And I just, thought, wow, that's super cool. And plus I was building forts like most of the kids my age and tree houses and rafts and things like that. And I had the whole barrage of play toys like Tinker Toys, Lincoln Logs, Erector sets. And it just, my sister and I would draw together. We would make crafts together. And it just, when it came time to choose an elective in high school, drafting was a natural. And I had great instructors in high school. It took 4 years of drafting and architectural drawing and design. So going into architecture was it was pretty much always the path laid down before me.
And did your sister also end up going into architecture too?
No, but she was a natural at drawing and designing things. And so she taught me a lot about how to draw as a kid.
Okay. And I saw that you got your master's at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Mm-hmm,
beautiful
correct.
Campus.
Oh, it was a great place. It was halfway between San Francisco and LA. So we had the Bernard Maybach buildings to the north, and we had John Lautner's buildings to the south, as well as so many other architects, both contemporary and historic. So In fact, Frank Lloyd Wright designed a little clinic right there in San Luis Obispo that was, I went past fairly often.
Were there any specific either drafting teachers in high school or professors in college that really kind of helped mold you into the professional and the prestigious professional that you have become?
Well, there were a couple professors that one was Don Coburg, who wrote the book The Universal Traveler. And what his book was about and what his studios were about was problem solving. And he said several times, if you come away with anything from school, it should be about how to solve problems. And a lot of that was about collaboration and problem solving methods. Don Grant was another instructor who talked about problem solving methodologies and just basically how to think, how to help other people solve problems, and how to create solutions to your own problems that you have in front of you. So those were really profound learning opportunities there.
Now, obviously, growing up in California, going to school in California, and I've spent a decent amount of time in California. The environment is just kind of front and center. It's something you think about a lot. It's beautiful, but it's also this thing that you inherently feel, hey, I need to make sure that we preserve and protect this for others and for future generations. Is that maybe where your interest in sustainability came from?
Well, that was part of it. It probably goes, I used to spend my summers working on my family's farm in north central Oklahoma. And I was farming with my great uncle, who was a child of the Depression. And that had a big impact on me as well. They were very resource efficient. You don't pour oil on the driveway that your well is underneath. You don't eat your seed corn is kind of a classic phrase. And just a strong work ethic as well. So that was a big impact on me. And I also fell in love with grain silos, the cathedrals of the prairie, as Le Corbusier used to call them. And I think there's just kind of an ethos that I picked up working with my great uncle. And then that carried into California. And I was in California at a great time because there were all these real funky little owner builder DIY projects, that did not have architects involved in them. They were funky homes being built all along the coast, especially up in Big Sur. And you've probably seen photographs of these. And then have you seen the 1973 publication called Shelter? That was a really powerful book because it just goes through, and it's mostly projects that are off the grid homes, and Buckminster Fuller, and just a real interesting array of projects all over the world. And just seeing those and being inspired by those. And then my last year of college was spent in Denmark. And Denmark had a real powerful influence on me. Denmark is an island, and they were striving to provide all the energy resources they need for their little island without nuclear power, at least when I was there in 76. So that the instructors there, plus the oil embargo that we had, what was it, 1973 and 1974? That was a major shift in our architectural education. Now our professors were really rallying behind considerations for energy performance. And I think Sim Vanderen was the state architect at that time as well. Or maybe he came a little bit later. But there was it was an amazing time to be in architectural education as a student.
Is there anything that you have seen in the architectural field kind of fall off the wayside, whether it be a trend or a practice, a technique that you'd like to maybe see brought back?
Well, I've worked on projects that have had passive systems and very active systems, residential and commercial. And as I'm sure Ron Jones is familiar with, passive solar homes were a big thing in the late 60s and early 70s. And now I've been remodeling some of those early passive solar homes. And what a disaster the trauma walls have turned out to be. And what a challenge it's been with, restructuring the thermal mass in these homes. The beauty of them were that they were passive systems that did not require mechanically operated exotic controls and things like that. So somewhere between those early passive homes and our newer generation of passive house homes, there's got to be a nice balance. And so that's been one of the things that I've been interested in pursuing. And I can't say that I found that perfect balance yet.
One thing I've always kind of wondered about, and I'll bounce this off of you, Nathan, is at one point it was not uncommon for homes, single family homes, to have like 2-foot overhangs, right? That you would then, to help with the shading on windows, pull in the winter sun, it doesn't block it. Hot, warmer summer sun, it does tend to block it. Why did we get away from that?
Well, it's more efficient to create a tight envelope without the overhangs, because when you have the roof overhangs, and if your weather seal, your air barrier is harder to accomplish with a roof overhang. You end up coming up here, and then somehow you have to work your way back up to the roof member. Now, we've used a lot of closed cell spray foam. That certainly helps, and so does exterior insulation. And I think that was part, but the other part is there's been a real shift and an interest in contemporary design, which is everything from flat roofs to low slope, single sloped roofs without the overhangs. What we're finding is, what I have found is that there are ways to get around all of that. I still like roof overhangs, and I like very generous roof overhangs from both an aesthetic point of view and just to keep, in our climate here in Oregon, where we have a lot of rain, to keep that water as far away from the foundation of a home as possible. So I remain an advocate of generous roof overhangs. They also help protect the exterior side of the home and the windows. And most of our homes do not have any attic space. They also don't have crawl spaces. So it's easier to manage your air barrier if you do not have attics.
You mentioned before about, doing some remodel work. What would you say currently your work or project split is? Is it half and half when it comes to remodel and new construction? Is it more skewed one way or the other on that spectrum? What's Nathan currently looking at as far as a project load? How does that fall?
It's about 2/3 new homes and about 1/3 remodels. I should also add, too, that my son Forrest is taking over Nathan Good Architects, and he is rebranding it as Studio Good Architects.
All right,
so he's
very good.
got control of the reins, and he's doing a great job. So I am migrating more to a consultant.
Well, that's fantastic, though. That's great. I'm going to have Tim O'Brien on a future episode of the Impact series, and he's also transitioning his business to one of his sons, and so
Yeah.
that's one of the things I plan to talk to him about. I did not know that was happening with yours, but that's really cool. Congratulations on that, because that also means that you're going to have time to maybe enjoy retirement, or at least semi-retirement. Is that maybe in the cards for you?
Yeah. that doesn't. I don't like the sound of that word. I've got a lot of design still left in me. I feel like I'm not done. I love architecture. Maybe consider some part-time teaching and still maybe do some design projects for my son.
Well, and you have such knowledge. That's why I wanted you on the Impact series, was to kind of be able to expose not just Nathan to this audience, but also just the knowledge that you have that you can share with others, because it's just you're quite a treasure. And I want to get into that a little bit more, because you do design some amazing homes, incredibly energy efficient. Uh, when you started out, the energy codes weren't really a huge thing. They have become more and more of a thing. Talk to me a little bit about your feelings in regards to uh, energy codes and uh, their existence, their direction that they're going. I mean, I think everybody should know that's listening to this, that you operate well above those. So it's kind of probably in some regards it may be an afterthought for you, but you're in this industry. So if you could just kind of share some of your insights on energy codes.
Well, I will ruffle some feathers and say I'm not a real fan of any codes at all. People should do what they think is the right thing to do. And unfortunately, we need the codes for our cross societal benefits. Just like motorcycle helmets, I used to love to ride my motorcycle without a helmet, feel the wind blowing through my hair and the breeze on my face. And I stopped doing that because I recognized that if I had an accident and there was damage to my head, that there was a cost to pay for the cost of medical care for others. So it's a societal benefit for me to wear a helmet. It's a societal benefit to have energy codes, unfortunately. We rarely reference energy codes because almost all of our homes perform substantially better than the energy code. So we sometimes use it as just a baseline. Sometimes we have to demonstrate our alliance or our compatibility with an energy code. We have done energy modeling on almost all of our projects to try to find how we can improve, even well beyond the energy codes. So I think the main benefit of energy codes, other than the societal demonstrating the cross societal benefit, is providing a reference point for the architects, the engineers, and the builders to achieve. It's just like green building rating systems. They provide a baseline of performance for people to both meet and aspire to exceed.
So let's stay on the topic for just a second of the incredible homes that you build and or design. They're also habitat homes that are out there that can achieve either net zero or very close to net zero. The vast majority of the bell curve hasn't really gotten to that point. Why is that? What are we missing? How are we not able to accomplish with the majority of the homes what you're able to accomplish with your designs, what some habitat projects? I mean, I feel like there's projects on both ends of the spectrum, custom, small habitat projects that can accomplish this, but the majority of the bell curve, why aren't we there yet? What are we missing?
I think my belief is that the majority of this bell curve are production builders, and production builders are driven by profit. And there's nothing wrong with profit. Profit is a healthy motivator for people, and they're large scale projects, and it's getting in, getting out, getting it sold. That's part of what makes so many homes affordable and less complicated as well to build. You start to add green building technologies, many of which are not really proven. There are a lot of experiments that go into creating a green building, and that there's risk involved in their success. Will they sell? Are they going to appeal to enough people to be strong in their market? So it's recognizing, that there's a lot of diversity out there that home builders need to respond to. And when I say diversity, that's diversity in their markets that they're going to sell to. Most of our projects have been custom homes for individual clients, and that's a very different market than production building.
Are you surprised that homeowners, haven't pushed for more energy efficient homes? Because sometimes you could say, well, it could come from the other side, right? The free market could say, hey, man, I want something better. But are you surprised that maybe home buyers or homeowners haven't pushed production builders in that direction more?
Well, I think most of that, Mike, is because they don't know what they're missing. I mean, who would want a home that's not as healthy as a healthy home? I mean, and I think that a lot of this has to do with our responsibility as architects, as green building media, to educate the public and get the information out there as much as possible. And for years, I would give presentations. I'd go to county fairs. I'd do a booth. I would speak at conferences. Unfortunately, most of the time I was speaking to the choir or preaching to the choir. But we have to get the message out to the general public, and they have to be educated. They have to understand the difference between a healthy home and an unhealthy home. They have to know about dust mites and what the fecal carcasses of dust mites do to asthma and respiratory issues. They have to understand how they can save energy in their home, the benefits of solar electric panels and the cost effectiveness. And how do those messages reach the broad public? It's hard to get all of those messaging out there.
Okay. So you said you're transitioning your business to your son and rebranding as Studio Good. Where do you see Studio Good going? Is it kind of staying on the same trajectory? Does he maybe want to take it into a new direction? Talk to us a little bit about the future of Studio Good.
Well, my son Forrest has a different background than I do. I think a lot of what we have been doing for the last 20 years as Nathan Good Architects, he will continue to do in terms of the values and the advocacy and healthy, energy efficient, resource efficient homes. Forrest is an exceptional designer, and I think we're going to see him integrate more than I have as the aesthetic component into projects. And I think that clients will be drawn to him as an architect and his team that he's building on their aesthetic component as much as their green building piece.
Okay. Now, you've seen a lot in your career. As you look back on it, what is the 1, 2, or maybe 3 things that you want the next generation to know?
Well, one of the factors that has motivated me, Mike, is trying to reduce the impact of climate change. And sorry to say, I think that battle has been lost. I think climate change is occurring at a rapid rate, and I don't believe it's reversible at this point. So now I think it's important that they design homes for climate disasters. We're calling it resiliency, but I think we're already in this phase now of having to deal with extreme storms, fires, drought conditions, loss of resources. I think we're going to see climate refugees starting to occur as well. We're already seeing that around the world as people are losing their water and their ability to grow crops. And I think it's just going to become more extreme. So I would encourage the next generation of architects to take that into consideration as they design for what I would call climate disasters, whether it's hurricanes or fires or windstorms or ice storms or the loss of power for weeks at a time. Aren't I a happy soul to talk to?
Well, I mean, honestly, I wasn't really, I had no idea what you were going to answer, and it didn't really matter to me what you answered. I was really curious to hear your take on it because, we hear that buzzword resiliency quite a bit. And I guess I kind of wonder, we talked earlier about the bulk of the bell curve, production homes, they're not net zero. Are people really interested in energy efficiency? Maybe they don't know about it. They're not asking for it. I wonder if resiliency is going to be something similar. And I'm going to share an anecdote with you real quick. I got the chance after Katrina to go down to Gulfport, Mississippi, and it's right there on the coast. And this particular one street neighborhood was just absolutely flattened. Pile of debris at the end of the road, actual dead bodies in the pile. But there was one home that did survive and didn't get affected. It was reinforced concrete, and the owner was a structural engineer. And everybody was fascinated. Oh my gosh, I can't believe he did that. And the other thing that you'll get a kick out of this, Nathan, the home wasn't even finished. The home was probably 70% completed. He wasn't actually living in it yet, but when the storm was coming, he went from where he was living to this under construction home because he knew it would withstand this storm. So he then goes around the area to these different meetings that are being held, talking about, oh gosh, we have a huge recovery effort on hand. And the gentleman's name was Scott. Scott goes around, says, hey, I got an example of something that withstood this. I mean, it took the brunt of the storm. It's right here. And you can go visit it and look at it, see it. Here's pictures I'm sharing with you in this meeting. And the response that he largely got in those meetings was, yeah, but do we have to build it that strong? And that was very disheartening to him, that he was like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I showed you how this could work. And you're like, yeah, but that's really going, quite a ways down the road to being resilient. And I don't mean it in air quotes, but to be resilient, do I have to go that far? And so I just wonder, are we going to face something similar? And I know it's an impossible question to answer, Nathan. It's all conjecture, but I fear that maybe we run into the same issue.
Well, yeah, it's a fair question, and our structural codes, are a balance between safety and cost, and that we have more extreme codes for our critical facilities like hospitals and police stations and fire stations, and they cost more accordingly, and they perform better under an earthquake, a severe storm, a hurricane. And to do that with a home obviously will increase the cost. So we probably won't see codes go there unless it's in an area that's susceptible to that, like rebuilding after Katrina. and or those individuals who want something better than code. When I built my own home, I wanted the floors to, and the, well, actually not just the floors because I didn't want as much motion when you walk on the raised floors, but I wanted a home that would perform better under heavy winds, or we're in an earthquake zone or an earthquake. So I was willing to pay a little bit more money for a more stable, structurally stable home, as well as the green features too. And not everyone's willing to do that. And this buzzword right now of affordability is making it even more challenging to build homes that will withstand natural disasters. Now, as you're describing that, Mike, I'm thinking about some of the homes that survived in the middle of the fire zone in Southern California. The unfortunate situation for them is that they lost their power, they lost their sewer, they lost their water, and there's severe smoke damage. So even though their home is standing, in some ways they're worse off than their neighbors who lost their home, because the insurance will cover the cost to rebuild, well, may pay to recover the cost of losing the home. And this home that's standing, which is they can't occupy, is not covered. So there's a role here with insurance companies, with lenders, and part of that's with codes and what people can tolerate in terms of the cost to be more secure.
And that'll be an interesting reconciliation, I think, in a way, right? Like, we're talking about, as you stated, we're already changing the climate. Now we've got to kind of pivot to mitigation and protection against climate disasters. We're also seeing insurance companies stop issuing policies in certain areas. And it's like, oh, wow, like that's another factor or force on the market of, okay, I can't build there, I can't build there, or I can, but it's very expensive to do. That could also have an effect, not just on the affordability topic, but just, I wonder if that will somehow create a negative backlash on the term resiliency, or the effort to be more resilient. People will be like, well, yeah, I could be, but it's going to be so expensive, I'm not doing that. I'm worried about that, I guess.
That's a fair worry.
When you deal with your clients, new construction, what are their, I'll say, top 3 priorities?
They often shift as we're educating one another. And when it comes time to start doing the design, the one factor that none of my clients want to compromise is on, I shouldn't say none of them, some of them have, is on indoor air quality, a healthy home. That is of paramount importance, especially if they have children. The exception to that, I had a client, they were building in the middle of a hayfield. We grow a lot of alfalfa here in the Willamette Valley. And my client, husband and wife, the wife had asthma. And I advocated for a really robust heat recovery ventilator for whole home ventilation, so that during the hay season, her hay fever would not kick in. And the client was not willing to pay for that. And I consider that a personal loss in my own education for the client. But this was a client who was just like, no, we're not going to do that. And we all have almost every architect has had clients where there's a diversion of values. So anyway, back to the part of that, it's just important to really understand what matters to the client. solar electric panels have really revolutionized so much of what we do now too, because a client can successfully argue that by doubling the size of their solar electric system, that they don't have to invest in triple pane windows. Even though we advocate for an energy efficient envelope, that they will, and LED lights have done the same thing. Our lighting loads are drastically lower now. And with solar electric panels, they're able to power their electric car, and they're able to use their leaf blowers electric charged with their, you know, as much as they want without any guilt of use. So a lot's occurred over the last 10 years.
Yeah, there's been a lot, especially like you're saying, plug loads, lighting, and then the whole advent of EVs, and the ability to leverage. And you may have had clients already do this. To leverage the EV as in essence, a battery for the house.
I don't know of anybody yet who's actually done that, but that's been part of the tool that's available to them.
Yeah.
That triggers up a whole nother line of thought, Mike, about the future, and that is AI and its impact upon computer farms, and what that's going to do to our electrical grid, and how important distributed energy is going to become important to, that's a real threat to all of us that I don't think we're really taking into account, is the energy that AI is going to require. And how do we respond to that? Distributed systems, PV on our homes, neighborhood power systems. I don't know. Let me ask a question to you. You hear a lot about trends. How do you think we're going to respond to the emerging energy demands from AI?
Well, I think so. For me, AI poses a couple of challenges. One, it's a 50-50 split of energy and then the water demand. To me, I think the water portion will provide the larger obstacle in the long run. I say this sometimes in presentations I give. I can put up more solar panels. I can generate more, power. I can maybe put up a windmill or something. I can't build a new river. I can't build a new lake. Like, the water is what the water is. So the water demands from the data centers is immense. And we tend to be putting some of these data centers, not all, but some of the data centers are going in places where we don't have a lot of water to begin with. And so that to me is going to be the thing that may put the brakes on data centers faster than the energy. Because as you alluded to, we could go to a decentralized type of system on the energy side. I mean, technically we could do it on the water side too, but the home I'm sitting in right now, we have solar panels on our roof. And over the course of 365 days, we generate a little bit more power than we actually use. So, my footprint on the grid is fairly light. Yes, we use the grid as a battery, so we draw from it at night, but we throw more at it during the daytime. You could design and get homes to that type of performance, and then say, okay, the traditional power generation goes to data centers. You could reconfigure and do something like that. Water consumption is still, to me, going to be the challenge of how do you cool these data centers with the immense water demand that they have, and still do the things that you're normally doing with water throughout the day, irrigating agriculture, or you're consuming it, or you're using it in commercial space or industrial space. That to me, I think, is the harder part to figure out.
Well, let's cross our fingers for innovation.
Well, you did bring up AI, and I guess that does bring a question to me. Um, do you see AI being a threat in any way to the architectural profession?
Well, let's see. If I break that down, it's AI is great for gathering information. AI is really good at synthesizing information, and those are two things that as architects we that's really core to what we do is gathering information and synthesizing information. And then there's certainly a benefit for AI to do those things. As a profession, it will be a threat in terms of employment, job loss, and I have a hard time seeing how it results in job gaining. But I think AI will replace a lot of what architects do, especially at the junior level. There will still be a role for editing, manipulating the information, aesthetics, quality control, just as it currently is for senior management as well. It can be a powerful tool and it can also be a threat. And I don't know which it's going to be. It's going to depend upon how we learn to use it and embrace it. It's already affecting a certain layer of what we do in terms of specifications and code compliance. My son is working with some unique systems right now where the plans he can run it through an AI check, and it'll tell him of any code issues that may surface. It can do enhancements. It can do energy modeling. It can do recommendations. I mean, it's an incredible tool. I don't know if it's going to result in better architecture.
Well, when you said enhancements, I have to ask, what do you mean by enhancements?
Well, things like taking some of the guesswork out of what we do. I like that phrase that's used in the medical profession called evidence based design. And it can rapidly assemble the evidence for particular solutions. Will it? I wrote my master's thesis on problem solving methodologies in architecture, and it ended with a speculation on how the computer can be used to generate aesthetically interesting and pleasing architecture. And I think that AI can do that, but it's probably more tuned towards a client user tool. For example, let's just do an example of what I mean by that. As a client, I can say, I would like to have a building that is energy efficient, healthy, resource efficient, but I also want it to be modern. I want it to look like something that comes from my climate, and I want it to be cost within the current range of $350 a square foot. I'm not worried about the floor plan, but I do need 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a 2-car garage. AI, go at it. Show me what you can do. And it can draw in regional examples. It can respond to climate change. It could, floor plans. It'll want some information about the site. Is it flat or terrain? Are there any views I need to take into consideration? What's the neighborhood, or is it rural or urban? All of that can be fed in as variables, and that can be a client-friendly program. And in that regard, it can easily bypass the architect. Now, when you get into that bell curve we were talking about, the builder and production homes, they can do that, but they're going to be after, they can be responding to what the AI is gathering as to what the current user needs are, rather than lagging behind 3 or 4 years of what the ideal buyer will want. They could get, more like 4 to 6 months trend information in there into advising them on what to build.
Well, I hope that it's not just client friendly, but also climate friendly.
Right. Well, in that regard, it could be more climate responsive, because right now, how we use climate data based on 30-year averages, we need to narrow that down to 3 to 5 years now, so that we can more closely track. We've had an amazing year here in Oregon in terms of our climate. We've had more sunshine in 2025 than we have in any year since I moved here 30 years ago. We've had less rain. It's been drier. It's been an amazing climate. I feel like I'm living in Santa Barbara.
Nice.
How does that figure into is this going to be a trend? Is this new 3-year climate data information, or do we still look at that 30-year average?
Yeah, I mean, 1 year, it could be, a fluke or an anomaly, but if it continues over the course of 3 to 5 years, then you kind of start to go, I think we're in for a different setup here. Well, Nathan, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. I really do appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, thank you. It was we took some twists and turns, but it's like improvisational jazz, right?
That's right. And had I known, we would have talked about that too.
You like music?
A little bit, yeah. So we'll hold that one off for another episode then.
Okay, sounds good, Mike. Thank you. Nice to talk to the voice of God.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
But hey, stay tuned for more episodes of the Impact Series podcast on the Green Builder Media Network. I'm Mike Collignon, and I'll see you again soon.